Hello, beautiful creative friends. It's Belinda, and I am so excited to be here today sharing my first project for the Hip Kit Club design team here on my YouTube channel. Since this is the first project that I have created as a member of this design team, I decided to go all in and use as many of the kits as I possibly can. If you are not familiar with the Hip Kit Club, it is a monthly kit subscription. You have a main kit, which includes either some pattern paper, or you can choose a pocket life kit or some cardstock. It comes with a whole heap of embellishments, and then there are kits that you can either subscribe to in addition, or you can purchase them as add-ons. So for this one, I am working with the main kit. I've got some patterned paper, I've got the cardstock kit, I've got all of the embellishments. I'm also using the stamp set from the Pocket Life kit, and I am working with the fabulous color kit this is all from the August 2025 collection. So I wanted to add some mixed media on my background, and I wanted to really add some layering here. So I started off with grabbing some of my watercolors and just adding a really light blue wash onto the background, and then flicking on a slightly darker blue just to add some little splatters around the place. And a lot of this is going to get covered up in the final layout, which is something that happens a lot, but I don't mind because I really do just enjoy playing with these different mediums sometimes. And of course, I have trimmed my white background down, and now I'm going to cut out the center from this patterned paper. This is kind of like a beach themed patterned paper. The entire kit really lends itself well to summer stories, maybe to holidays, to beaches, to pools, all that kind of stuff. So I really like the gradient in this particular patterned paper, and I wanted to use it as the border for my page. So I'm just trying to because I didn't do that watercolor right in the middle, I'm just trying to sort of rotate it around to get it to somewhere that I'm pretty happy with, because I've got a fairly clear idea of how I want this layout to look. Now, if you are not familiar with the Hip Kit Club, I will leave a link to the website down in the description box below. And I also have a discount code, which is Belinda Jane, and that will get you 10% off your order with the Hip Kit. So if you haven't tried them before, I highly recommend them. I was a subscriber to the Hip Kit for a good 2 to 3 years before joining the design team. So this is a brand that I genuinely love and am happy to spend money on. And I really do think they're worthwhile checking out. So here is the stencil from the August 2025 color kit. It's this really pretty wavy sort of stencil. It's got a real moving water feel to it. And the other thing that came in the color kit were these distress embossing glazes. And if you watched my vlog or my little add-on creative play video this week, you will have seen me playing around with these distress glazes and adding them to my texture paste, just my really inexpensive texture paste, which I got from Officeworks here in Australia. And I love that really textured effect that it gives, and with that embossing glaze it also ends up pretty shiny as well. So I chose to use orange rather than the blue, which might have made the most sense, but the orange worked really well with the photos that I'm using, and the photos are of my husband and my kids on some paddle boats that are available or have been available in a little lake, which is at a local winery, or a winery that is local to me, that we have had breakfast at during summer for quite a few years now with my family. So I've added the embossing paste through the stencil. I have put the distress glaze on top, and then one thing I don't think I mentioned in my little creative play video is that it is actually pretty important to put that to the side and let the embossing paste dry. So you want to make sure that it's all pretty dry before you start adding heat to it. I've found that doing it that way means it's less likely to react when the heat is added. So here are my photos. I've got these 4 photos. It's a bit of a sequence. It's not the first time that we've been on the paddle boats. It's not the first time that I have documented being on the paddle boats, but I think it's actually the first time that my husband and kids have been on the paddle boats. So worth documenting, I think. Also, and you may see this in my journaling a little bit later on, I found it really interesting. The first year, my son was just all ready to go, could not wait to get on those things. And this time, he was terrified. It took a lot of convincing to get him to go on. And then when he did get on, he was clutching onto that thing. It looks like he's holding on trying to steer, but in actual fact, he was clutching on for dear life. So I don't know what's happened in that time between, but you know, that's fine. He went on, he gave it a go, and I'm really proud of him for that. So I've also grabbed this paper here is from the cardstock kit. So every month there is a kit of coordinating cardstocks that go with the monthly, I suppose, the color scheme. And there's always one side which is like a printed texture pattern and the other side which has got a different sort of pattern. And this month it was these ombre polka dots. And I really, really loved the colors in that. Off camera, I created these tags. I used some white cardstock, trimmed them down into tag shapes, and then I used, it is the summer die set, which was also from August 2025, to die cut the word summer, one letter out of each tag. And now I am backing each of those letters with this cardstock and making sure that I've got that ombre moving from left to right across the title. And again, those colors, they tie in really nicely with my photo. And I really loved sort of stretching myself a little bit to try and come up with a different way of using these dies. So the die set does just feature the word summer. And obviously it would be very easy to just die cut that word out of some patterned paper and then use it like that. But I wanted to try and come up with a little bit of a different way to use them. And I thought these tags would be a nice bold title feature on the layout. And then I've stitched around each of them just to give a little bit of texture. And if you know me, you will know how much I love stitching on my layouts. So because I have got a lot going on in the background and that title, those tags that make the title, they do take up a lot of space as well. I don't want to go too crazy with additional layers behind the photo or with additional embellishing. So I'm keeping it pretty simple and I'm just going to use these 2 strips of patterned paper. So I've got this pretty neutral looking, almost like a basket weave pattern. And then a thinner strip of, it's a coral colored, I think it's like a seashell, sea anemone kind of print to it. But again, the colors just tie in really nicely with the colors in my photo. And just to add a little bit extra there, I'm using my distressing tool to rough up the edges of those strips before I place them down. And if you can see my background off to the left there, you might notice that I had to go and add a bit more of that embossing paste and embossing glaze onto the background. When I put my photo strip together and was just sort of having a bit of a play around with placement off camera, I realized that I was going to cover up all of that beautiful stenciled background. So I quickly went and just added a little bit more just to make sure that you can still see some of it and it's not completely lost. Now, because I've got a bit of difference in height here through the middle of that strip, there's a bit missing because of the tags on the bottom and the pattern papers on the top. I wanted to fill that gap in and I've just grabbed this is just a thin piece of like chipboard sort of stuff that came out of packaging at some point when I've received something. And I'm going to adhere that down. I'm also using some wet adhesive because it's got a bit of a slick surface to it. And then I will adhere the whole strip down to the back of my page. Now, you've probably heard me say this plenty of times before if you have watched any of my videos, but because I am adhering this onto mixed media, I absolutely want to use a wet adhesive here. So I'm going to use some tape just to give it a bit of an instant stick. But then I'm going to go and grab my glue and add a healthy dose of glue there as well. And the reason for that is the mixed media creates an uneven surface. And if I just adhere the tape down, it is going to come unstuck because it's not going to get into all the nooks and crannies and all the grooves around that mixed media. But adding that wet adhesive just means it's going to really adhere nice and strong. And it's hopefully not going to fall off. You can see that I had also adhered the strips, the tag title down. And to do that, I just laid the tags down across my cutting mat, put some adhesive onto them, and then stuck it to the bottom of the photo. So I laid the tags out first, adhered them together, and then placed the whole bit to the bottom of the photo strip. Now I've got my journaling, which I'm back to using my trusty typewriter because it is out at the moment. It's got a little place in my craft room, so I'm using it as much as I can. It's certainly much easier than opening up my computer and finding a document and all of that sort of stuff. So it's really easy to just grab the typewriter, type up my journaling, cut it down into strips and adhere it. And then, as I mentioned, I'm keeping the embellishing super simple here. So I'm just going to create a little cluster to the left-hand side of that photo strip and then one on the top right. And all I'm really sort of thinking about here is trying to find a bit of balance in terms of the size of the elements, the colors that I'm using, and the types of elements that I'm using. So I've got like one sort of circular piece there on the left-hand side. It's that bright corally colored floral. On the right-hand side, it's the sun. Then I've got the, what do you call that? On the left-hand side, the directional piece. And on the right-hand side, I've got the ticket. I've grabbed some word strips which were from the kit, and then I have used the stamp set from the Pocket Life kit to stamp out the words summertime and just the way we like it, and added those into the embellishment clusters as well. And then to finish off my title, that word memories came from one of the die cut packs in the embellishment kit. It's also in the main kit. And I popped that down over the top of the summer title and just added a little bit of foam adhesive to give it a bit of dimension. Then to finish off these clusters, I have these little foliage pieces. They were cut using the same die cut set that I used for the title. That's the summer die cut set. Really cute little pieces, and I just used some of the scraps from the paper that I used to back my title. And I'm just going to tuck those in behind those embellishment clusters there to finish them off. Then I will grab the enamel dots or the enamel shapes and tuck a couple of those in to finish it off as well. And then to finish off, I'm going to add some eyelets to the bottom of the tags where I've punched the holes. I went through my stash and just found these orange eyelets that coordinated really well with the colors in the page, and I'm just going to adhere those down. I really like the added sort of texture that those add, and I think it finishes the page off really, really nicely. So I do have some close-up photos coming just very shortly. But I hope that you have enjoyed this video. If you'd like to keep watching, you'll find more linked on the screen at the end and also in the description box. I'd love for you to like this video or leave me a comment. They really do mean so much to me. And if you're not already, I would be thrilled for you to subscribe and join me for my upcoming videos. But I will leave it there for now and say thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.